right, so get ready because we are diving deep into one of the most intriguing cases in American true crime history.
Oh, yeah.
Belle Gunness,
The Black Widow of Laporte.
the Black Widow of Laporte. Now, I know you're a true crime fan, so you might already know the basics.
Right.
But trust me, this deep dive is going to uncover some seriously fascinating details and explore some pretty unsettling questions about her motives and her methods.
Yeah, it's interesting because Belle operated right at the turn of the 20th century, a time when societal expectations of women were drastically different.
Oh, absolutely.
And it makes you wonder how much this played a role in her crimes going unnoticed for so long.
That's a great point. It wasn't just about the murders themselves, but how she really used society's perception of women to her advantage.
Exactly. She cultivated this image of a helpless widow,
Right.
relying on men for financial security
Right.
and companionship. This was a time when women were often seen as vulnerable and dependent.
Yes.
And she played that to perfection.
Yeah, it's almost like she weaponized those expectations.
Totally.
Okay, so let's rewind a little bit to Belle's early life.
Okay.
She was born Brynhild Paulsdatter Sturseth in Norway,
Wow.
and her early years were far from a fairy tale.
Right.
She came from a poor farming family, and there are accounts of a possible traumatic incident during her teenage years.
Yeah, that's right. There's a story about a brutal attack that left her with physical injuries and potentially lasting emotional scars.
Yeah.
Now, while we can't definitively say how this event shaped her,
Right.
it does raise questions about the role of trauma in her later actions. Could this have been a catalyst for her alleged crimes?
It's definitely something to consider.
Okay.
How often do we see a connection between early trauma
Oh, yeah.
and later criminal behavior?
All the time.
But even before she came to America in 1881, there were hints of something unsettling.
Yeah.
She married Mads Sorensen, and they opened a confectionery store,
Okay.
and that's when things start to get suspicious.
Right. Yes, a series of incidents raise questions about Belle's possible involvement in foul play.
Oh.
First, their store burns down,
Oh, wow.
and they collect the insurance money. Then, tragically, 2 of their children die under questionable circumstances.
And both children as well as Mads were insured with Belle as the beneficiary. It's a
Right.
pattern that's hard to ignore.
Exactly. Officially, the children's deaths were attributed to colitis.
Okay.
However, some researchers have pointed out that certain types of poisoning can mimic the symptoms of colitis, making it really difficult to rule out foul play, especially given the financial gains for Belle each time.
Each time. And then there's the death of Mads himself.
Right.
She dies suddenly on the very day his 2 life insurance policies overlap.
What?
Official cause of death, heart failure.
The timing, coupled with the previous incident, certainly makes you wonder.
Right.
While we can't definitively say she was responsible,
Right.
these events establish a potential pattern of financial motivation behind her actions.
And this pattern becomes even more pronounced after Mads' death.
Yeah.
Belle uses the insurance money to move to LaPorte, Indiana, where she buys a 42-acre farm.
Wow.
It's almost like she's setting the stage for what's to come.
That's an interesting way to put it. And you're right. This move to LaPorte marks a turning point in Belle's story.
Yeah.
It's here, on this isolated farm, that her alleged crimes escalate and she earns the chilling moniker, the Black Widow.
Okay, so let's talk about her modus operandi.
Right.
She starts placing personal ads in newspapers, specifically targeting wealthy bachelors.
Okay.
And she's very direct in her requests, asking them to bring a significant amount of cash.
That's right. She was incredibly bold in her approach, preying on the loneliness and desire for companionship of these men. It's a textbook example of how predators exploit vulnerability, understanding, and manipulating the desires of their victims.
And these men, blinded by the promise of love and a fresh start, walk right into her trap. What's striking is the sheer number of men who vanish without a trace after visiting Bill's farm.
This is where things get really disturbing. Neighbors reported seeing Bill purchasing large quantities of lye,
Lie?
a highly corrosive substance. It's not hard to imagine what she might have used that for.
Oh my gosh, and then there were those late-night bonfires?
Yeah.
It seems unlikely she was just enjoying a cozy evening by the fire.
Yeah, these fires were likely part of her gruesome disposal method. The fact that rumors about these activities were circulating amongst her neighbors suggests that people suspected something sinister was happening on that farm. It's like an unsettling undercurrent running through this seemingly quiet community.
Yet Belle managed to maintain a facade of respectability.
Yes.
The Helpless Widow Act worked flawlessly. How did she manage to pull that off for so long?
That's the question that continues to fascinate researchers. She was clearly a master manipulator presenting one face to the world
Yeah.
while concealing a much darker reality.
Right.
This duality is key to understanding how she operated and evaded suspicion for so long.
And then comes the final act of this dark saga. In 1908, a fire engulfs Belle's farmhouse, and the authorities make a shocking discovery.
The fire revealed the remains of multiple bodies, including those of Belle's own children.
Wow.
However, the remains believed to be Belle's didn't quite match her physical description.
This is where the mystery deepens.
Yes.
The remains were significantly smaller than Belle, who was known to be a tall, imposing woman. Could she have staged her own death using a decoy?
That's the theory that has captivated true crime enthusiasts for over a century.
Right?
Sightings of Belle were reported for years after the fire, fueling speculation that she escaped and vanished into anonymity.
It's like something out of a Hollywood thriller. Did she manage to outsmart everyone and disappear with her ill-gotten gains? Or was this just wishful thinking on the part of those who couldn't accept the idea of a woman capable of such calculated cruelty?
Right. It's a question that continues to haunt us. But let's not forget, the fire also revealed something truly horrific, the bodies of several other victims.
Right. It wasn't just about whether Belle had escaped. The investigation uncovered a much larger, more horrifying picture. Buried on her property were the remains of at least 12 individuals.
And some researchers believe the real number could be much higher, potentially over 40 victims. It seems Belle's farm wasn't just a home, it was a meticulously concealed graveyard.
It's a staggering thought. Imagine the scale of her alleged deception.
Yeah.
All those lives lost, all those families left wondering what happened to their loved ones.
It challenges our understanding of human nature.
It really does.
How could someone commit such acts with such apparent coldness and precision? It raises questions about the psychology of a female serial killer, a topic that wasn't widely studied or even acknowledged at the time.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder what finally led to this chaotic ending. Was it just a matter of time before her carefully constructed facade crumbled?
Well, there was a man named Ray Lamphere who worked as Belle's farmhand. Their relationship went beyond employer and employee. There were rumors of a romantic involvement, though it was never confirmed.
So Ray was more than just a hired hand. He was close to Belle, privy to her secrets, perhaps even complicit in some of her activities.
Possibly. And then Belle fires Ray, leaving him disgruntled and resentful.
Oh, wow.
He becomes quite vocal about his anger, even threatening to expose Belle's secrets.
This sounds like a dangerous situation for Belle. Could Ray's resentment have been the catalyst for the fire? Was it an act of revenge?
Authorities suspected Ray's involvement and charged him with arson.
Okay.
However, he was only convicted of burglary. It suggests he might have played a role in the events leading up to the fire, but whether he was the one who set it or if he was acting on Belle's orders remains a mystery.
So we have this complex web of relationships, secrets, and potential motives.
Yeah.
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces, and we're left to speculate about how they all fit together.
And that's what makes this case so compelling. It's not a simple whodunit.
Right.
It's a psychological thriller with twists and turns that continue to fascinate us over a century later. We have these tantalizing clues.
Yes.
But the full picture remains elusive.
It's almost like Belle Gunness deliberately crafted this air of mystery around herself. The conflicting accounts, the unanswered questions, they all contribute to her enduring legend.
You're right. It's as if she understood the power of an unsolved mystery. And this ambiguity, combined with the horrific nature of her alleged crimes, has ensured that her story continues to be told and retold each generation, adding their own interpretations and theories.
It's almost like she's become a cautionary tale, a figure whispered about in hushed tones, a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, that even the most seemingly ordinary person can harbor dark secrets.
It's a powerful message, and it speaks to our fascination with the dark side of human nature. We're drawn to these stories perhaps because they force us to confront the uncomfortable reality that evil can exist anywhere, even in the most unexpected places.
It makes you question everything you think you know about people. That friendly neighbor, that charming acquaintance, could they be hiding something sinister beneath the surface?
It's a question that Belle Gunness forces us to ask. Her story serves as a stark reminder that we must be discerning, that we shouldn't take people at face value, that we need to be aware of the potential for manipulation and deception.
And it's not just about personal safety or being wary of strangers. Belle's story has broader implications.
Right.
It makes you think about the dangers of blindly trusting authority figures, institutions, even historical accounts.
That's an important point. Belle Gunness operated in a time when women were largely dismissed or underestimated.
Yeah.
Her ability to manipulate and deceive was partly due to the prevailing social norms and biases of the era. It's a reminder that even seemingly objective accounts can be influenced by the prejudices of the time.
So how do we reconcile this idea of Belle Gunness? Was she a master manipulator who exploited societal expectations to her advantage? Or was she a victim of circumstance driven to desperate measures by a patriarchal society that offered limited options for women?
That's the crux of the matter. Her story challenges us to consider the complex interplay of individual agency and social context. Was she a product of her environment, or a cunning opportunist who saw a chance to exploit the vulnerabilities of others?
It's a question that's difficult to answer definitively,
Right.
but it's a question worth asking because it forces us to examine our own biases, our own assumptions about gender roles, and the ways in which societal expectations can shape individual behavior.
And it reminds us that history is rarely black and white. It's a tapestry woven from multiple perspectives, conflicting accounts, and unanswered questions. And it's in these gray areas, in the spaces between what we know and what we can only speculate about, that we find the most compelling stories.
So we've gone from a seemingly ordinary woman to an alleged criminal mastermind. Belle Gunness' story is filled with chilling details and unanswered questions. What can we really take away from all of this?
Well, it's tempting to just dismiss Belle Gunness as a monster, an anomaly.
Right.
But I think there's more to be gained by trying to understand the factors that might have contributed to her alleged crimes.
You're right. It's not about sensationalizing the story. It's about examining those social and psychological contexts that might have played a role.
Yeah, for example, we've talked about the societal expectations of women in that era.
Right.
Women were often financially dependent on men
Mm-hmm.
and expected to conform to certain roles. Could these limitations have created a breeding ground for desperation, even resentment, driving some to extreme measures?
It's a question worth pondering. Did Belle see a way to exploit these expectations to turn them to her advantage? Was it a calculated decision? Or was she driven by a need for survival for control in a world that offered her very limited options?
It's hard to say for sure. We can speculate, but without access to her thoughts and motivations,
Right.
we can only piece together a fragmented picture.
That fragmentation is part of what makes this case so fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The lack of definitive answers, the conflicting accounts, they all contribute to the mystery.
Absolutely. And it's that mystery that continues to draw us in, prompting us to examine the evidence, to search for clues, to try and make sense of the seemingly senseless.
It's almost like a puzzle where we're given the pieces,
Yeah.
but not the picture on the box.
Yeah.
We're left to assemble it as best we can,
Right.
knowing that some pieces might be missing and the picture we create might not be entirely accurate.
And that's the nature of history, isn't it? We rely on accounts, on records, on
Yeah.
interpretations, all filtered through the lens of time and individual bias. It's a process of reconstruction, of piecing together a narrative that, while imperfect, allows us to glean insights into the past.
It's also a reminder that history is not static.
Right.
New evidence can emerge, new perspectives can challenge old assumptions, and the stories we tell ourselves about the past can evolve.
That's why it's so important to engage with history critically, to
Yeah.
question the narratives we've been given, and to be open to new interpretations. In the case of Belle Gunness, for instance, there's been a recent resurgence of interest in her story, with researchers revisiting the evidence and exploring alternative theories.
It's a reminder that even the most well-known cases can still surprise us, that there's always more to uncover, more to learn.
And that's what makes history so captivating. It's not just about the past, it's about understanding the present and shaping the future. By examining the stories of those who came before us, we can learn from their mistakes, celebrate their triumphs, and gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
So as we conclude our deep dive into the life and alleged crimes of Belle Gunness, I'm left with a sense of awe at the complexity of human nature, the enduring power of mystery, and the importance of continuous inquiry.
I couldn't have said it better myself. We may never fully understand what drove Belle Gunness, but by exploring her story, we've delved into the murky depths of human ambition, vulnerability, and the enduring allure of the unknown.
It's a story that challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and society, and to approach history with a critical yet open mind. What do you think? What resonates most with you about this case? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, sometimes the most captivating stories are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.